have their own preferences. So again, it's under Edit, Preferences, Desktop View, My Preferences, and you want to set it so that, these are the things that I want to see. The other thing that happens is sometimes I use the home page, but I'm going to say that I was entering in a bill, and then I had my chart of accounts up, and I wrote a check, and I have all of these windows open. In fact, I've got so many open that it can't even show them all. So I always have to go back to the home page to get to Write Check. Well, I already had Write Check open. So one of the tools that you've got is under View, Open Window List. And here's all the stuff that I have open. So if I have a report open, if I want to do this report, if I want to go back to writing checks, I don't have to go back to the home page to get back to the task that I was working on. And so I just come in here and I can go back and forth. You'll also notice that my screens are kind of stacked on top of each other, so it gets kind of messy. So under View, I'm going to switch to one window. And what that does is it makes the screen that I'm on the full screen. And I can actually read everything. I can see everything. When I look at a report, it brings up the whole screen. But I have my open window, so I can still easily get back and forth. I don't have to go back to the home page every time I want to switch tasks. The other thing that I want to do, because I really am into being lazy and having everything at my fingertips, is we have the icon bars up here. And so I like having an icon up here for all the tasks that I do, and typically in the order in which I do them. So the first thing I have to do is get rid of all the icons that Intuit very thoughtfully put up there to market to me and to sell. So I'm going to go up to View and customize the icon bar. And before I start deleting these, I want you to know that everything we're going to delete off here, all of the services and the marketing stuff, is available under Help. So I'm not really deleting it. It's not going anywhere. But starting at the bottom, checks and credit cards. This isn't using my checks or my credit cards. This is selling me into its merchant services. If I use merchant services and process credit cards, I've already got it. I don't need it there. Payroll. This is adding payroll. Either I'm already doing payroll in QuickBooks, I'm using another service. Again, I don't need to have that on there. Services. Basically, this is marketing. Buy my services. And you can see as I'm deleting these, I'm getting more space. Feedback is under Help. My Find I do use. My Reminders, personally, I don't, so I'm going to take it off. I use my account list. That's my chart of accounts. I don't use the register. So again, this is your icon bar, so you want to take off of here everything that you don't use. User licenses, I don't need it there. I don't want the live community there. I don't need the App Center, though I do suggest you go into the App Center. Again, it's under Help. There's about 300 little apps that you can, add to your program to make it a little better. The Report Writer is under the Reports. I probably don't need it. I personally don't use the Report Center. If you do, and I'm going to leave it there for a minute. The Document Center lets me scan documents, so knowing what these do makes a difference. I don't do payroll. Take off the icon. Do I need this much space for my company snapshot? I'm going to say no, I don't, so I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay? So I can go in and customize these the way I want them. But wait a minute, I have my invoice here, so I can just click here and open an invoice. But maybe you also use sales orders, and you'd like to have an icon for the sales orders here. Well, if I go into View, Customize, and I add, not everything I can do is on here. So sales orders not even on here. So that means I just can't get one? No. So we're going to come out, open up the window, the screen, the task, the report, whatever it is that you want to have an icon for, open it up on the screen and go up to View and add Create Sales Orders to the icon bar. And so again, I like to keep my titles really short, so I'm just going to call that a sales order. And you can come in here and find pictures, and there's all kinds of little icons in here that you can pick. Okay, it's whatever you want it to be. Yeah. And so now I have an icon up here that says sales order. The other thing that I do is, I'm going to go back to my home, I receive payments from my customers. And I'm not going to set up theirs right now. And I go to View, and I add this to the icon bar. And you can do it any way you want to, but I like receiving money. And then I'm going to come down here, and here's a pile of money they're going to give me. So I try to kind of match my icons to whatever it is that I'm doing. Let's say that there's a report. I want the open invoice report because we're dealing with customers. So I'm going to go to my accounts receivable, and I'm going to get my open invoice report. And I don't use the purchase orders, and I maybe want the aging, but I don't need the class. So customize the report any way you want to. And I'm hoping you all know how to memorize the report and get into that. But this is going to put an icon right here. So I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to open the icon bar. And here's my open invoices, and because I'm using that icon already for my invoices, so I want to find something different. So we'll scroll down here, and I have an icon. So I have all of these tasks open here, so I can go back and forth during the day, but right now I'm going to get that made to come out, and it's under Window, Close All. So I just put all that stuff away, and I want that report back, and I just click here, one touch. And I get the report that I want. It's memorized the way I want. It's for the date range that I picked. If I've gone in and filtered it or whatever I've done to it, it's kind of like memorizing it. But when I come up to my reports memorized, it will not be in my memorized reports list. It will just be on my icon bar. One of the nice things about it, so let's say it's a report I want to run. I don't really want it in the memorized reports because maybe everybody can see it there. So I can have reports here that I see that everybody else can't see. And so anything that I want to do, I'm going to put it in to my icon bar. But I want them in the order in which I do them. So we're going to go back to View. We're going to go back to Customize, and there's a little diamond, and you can see when I put my mouse on that diamond that it kind of changes and it gets into a plus sign. So I'm going to say, well, the sales order needs to go up here above the invoice because I generate the sales order and then I do the invoice. And then the next thing I do is I receive their payments. And the next thing I do is I look to see who owes me money. And then I kind of want to separate my accounts receivable from my accounts payable task. So I'm on the last thing in accounts receivable, and I add a separator. And you can see up here where it added a little line. And so I've now rearranged my icons to be in the order that I want them. And everything I do at a fingertip is right here. I don't have to stop to think, okay, how did that process work? I do this and then I do that, and where was that report? I don't have to think about it. It's just right here. So now when I have all my tasks open, we'll get bills, we'll get our chart of accounts. So I have everything open. So during my day, I can just easily toggle back and forth between my tasks. But in the end of the day, puts everything away. In the morning, everything is right here. So it just kind of lets me customize my desktop. Now, some of you log in as yourself, and then you also log into QuickBooks sometimes as admin. And so one of the things you want to be aware of is that when you log in as yourself, you have one set of icons. Then if you log in as admin, you're going to have totally different icons. So I do it partly because it gives me a real visual difference. Oh yeah, when the icons look like this, I'm logged in as admin. When they look like this, I'm logged in as Dawn. So I kind of use it as a visual thing for me to be able to know who I'm logged in at, to see, what it is I'm doing. The other thing you'll find, you go to help somebody, and their icons are completely different than yours. But what it has allowed me to do is I don't always have to go back to the home to do my next task. I don't have to go up to the menu to find the task to do the next task. And so I can have my task up here. If we have lots of different employees that are into our QuickBooks file, you can customize the task for each person. So I recently set up a company on Enterprise, and we have people that just do the sales orders. That's really all they do. So we went in, when we set up the users, we also logged in as each user and set up their icons so that they had the customer list, they had the sales order, they had a report that we generated for them, and that was the only icons they had. They don't need to see all the other stuff that they're not going to be doing. So I can have icons set up as accounts receivable, I can have icons set up as accounts payable, and I can make it easy. So the other thing that you want to do in setting up QuickBooks to think like you, it's first of all to get my web page or my home page and everything set up. Over here on the right, I get tired of seeing all the marketing. I can't get rid of it, but I can at least minimize them by clicking on that little plus sign so I don't have to see them. And so I can keep this kind of clean when I'm there. You also want to spend a few minutes going through My Preferences, and the two you really want to look at is, of course, your desktop, but you also want to look at the general. Because one of the biggest complaints I hear about QuickBooks from a lot of people is, well, when I'm entering things in and I hit the enter key, it records it, and I wasn't done with it. I was just trying to move to the next field. And so right here, under my general preferences, let me move the enter key between fields. My tab key, if you're used to using the tab key, will always work. Now I can use the enter key to move around. And because the enter key will no longer save my transactions when I want to, if you hold control and the enter key, then it will. Okay? I can turn off all those little pop-up messages that are trying to sell me this service or sell me that service and get rid of those. For some of you, I was doing a demo yesterday, and we had the volume set up, and it went beep, beep, and it was really, really loud. I won't be that loud. So turn it off if it's annoying. This is your user. This is your QuickBooks, so it needs to think and act like you want it to. When you're entering in amounts, a lot of accountants, a lot of engineers, they never use the decimal. They go, I want $123.25, so I go 12325, and the program and my calculator are all set to put that decimal in for me. Well, if that's how you think, if that's how you enter it in, mark this, and QuickBooks also will put the decimal in for you. If I don't have a decimal there and I want $123.25, what I'm going to get is $12,325. So make it think like you do. When you're entering in bills and you're entering in checks, do you want it to automatically recall the last transaction? So I entered in a bill for Comcast and I put it to internet expense for $100. Next time I put in Comcast, it automatically comes up, goes to internet expense, and it's $100, and I just have to change the amount? Or is the amount always different and you want it to pre-fill the account for the vendor, but you'll put in the amount? So again, What makes it easier for you? What makes less thinking on your part, less effort on your part? The other thing here on the dates, depending on the version or the year of QuickBooks that you're in, the default has always been use the last date entered. So if I'm entering in things and I had to put something in with a June date, the next transaction I do is going to be that June date. Well, that's not really the date that I want it to default to. So I default it to use today's date. On the other hand, if we're working on a client that brings us their shoebox and we've got to go back to January and enter all of January and February, I might choose to have it default the last day so that I'm not having to always change it from today's date. Again, make it think like you do, because that's what really is important. The other one on the personal preferences that I want to talk about is the reports. I modify just about every report that I do. And so what happens is I go in and I go to my reports and we go to company and we run a profit and loss, and the default in reports for QuickBooks is this month to date. Well, I usually don't want to see this month to date. I want to see last month. So I come in here. This is a sample file. It created my reports really fast. No big deal. Some of you know, though, that when you create a report, then you go get a cup of coffee, stop and talk to a couple people on your way back, and maybe by the time you get back to your desk, the report is generated. So if you want to be able to change the dates, if you go into Edit, Preferences, Reports and Graphs, and just mark this little box right here, okay? So what that does is now when I go into my reports and my company and my profit and loss, it brings up my modify screen and it says, okay, what do you want to change? So I can go in right here the first time and say, I want it for last month. And then I only have to generate the report one time. So it just makes reporting that much faster, and I don't have to think about it. The other thing, again, if this is a report I do all the time, add it to your icon bar. Keep your labels short and sweet. This does not change what it says here on the report. It only changes what it has up here on my level. So now whenever I want my profit and loss for last month, I click this. It knows I wanted last month because that's what I told it, and there's my report. If I'd wanted to see it collapsed and I made that my icon, and we'll call it P&L 2. So now when I hit this one, it'll automatically come up collapsed. When I hit this one, it will automatically come up expanded. So you can create the reports the way you want. The key is accounting can be difficult enough. So I shouldn't have to think about my everyday tasks that I do. I don't want to have to think about where was that, what order was it. If I'm training new people and I can set up the icons and say, okay, you're going to enter in the sales order, and then from there you generate the invoice, and then when the customer's money come in, you receive the payment. They don't even need to know that, oh yeah, all that stuff was over here. Or I'm surprised a lot of times people think I have to go to the customer center and I have to find my customer and then I have to come here and then I can. So I've just hit 4 tabs, gone 4 different places to get to my sales order instead of clicking one button. And so not only is it more efficient, not only can I be faster, I don't have to go searching for things all of the time to be able to find them. So we tried to keep these really short. Hopefully I've given you all some information. There's only 6 of you, so I'm going to try unmuting all of you. And it doesn't look like it's going to unmute. If you have a phone, and you're listening in it that way. And if you have any specific questions, maybe I'm going to mute you back. That's an awful lot of feedback. There's a questions tab on your icon. We also, as soon as I find my polls, I'm going to put a couple questions. You'll see them over on the right-hand side of your screen. If you could just take a second and answer those for us, kind of helps us know whether or not we're doing a good job, what kind of topics you want. We'll wait about a minute on these. We've got about 6 questions to ask you. It just helps us keep track of what you're doing. While we're doing it, keep in mind that at EBS we offer consulting and training, so we come out one-on-one and help you with whatever it is that you have help with or need. And I'll close that one and I'll ask you question 2. Okay. So again, if you'll answer those. Basically what we want to try and do is, with the consulting is we come to your site, you can bring your books to our site, we can log in remotely to your office, and kind of as a hand-holding, helpful, we'll train you, we'll problem solve whatever it is that you need. We also do financial controlling. A lot of times as small, medium-sized businesses, you're always wondering, well, gee, am I doing this right? Are my financials right? Should I be doing things different? And while we won't give you tax or financial planning advice because we're not licensed for those things, we can look over your books on a regular basis, maybe monthly or quarterly, and help you make sure that everything is going to the right place. The other thing that we can do is we can go in, and we'll go to the 3rd question. The other thing that we can do is we can go in and do the bookkeeping for you. A lot of times people I don't want to do this myself. I want somebody else to do the majority of it for me. And so you can go, well, we've got bookkeeping services which we either do in our office or we can do in your office. Plus, we've got these webinars that are the free ones. We're going to be doing longer webinars, which there will be a fee for. We've got one coming up in October that will be on payroll and getting everything you need to do on payroll. And there's only 2 more, and then I'm going to actually let you go and have some lunch. So kind of keep in mind, too, you should have our email, and if there's a specific topic that you think would make a great webinar, please email it to us and let us know so that we can make sure that the topics that you guys want to know, because you're the ones that are important to us. And our last question, and then you can go have lunch and